Taking my model railway up a gear, I move on to making my first building for my new layout. I won't count the platform I previously made, as that was more of an experiment with working with new materials. Having dabbled with Platiscard, how to work with it and experiment with what can be done with it, I felt mildly confident that I can make a reasonable job of a slightly more complex construction. So, having drawn up my idea for a rural Japanese railway station based on a variety of reference photos of actual Japanese stations that I'd found online, I gathered together the materials and tools I thought I needed. But I should mention that I was fully aware that I would be, as a beginner, half making techniques up as I went along and half kinda stabbing in the dark. But anyway, here we go. I began rather tentatively with the first elements of my design, the foundation of the station. Now, I didn't initially video my progress here, as I thought me showing you making a box was a bit boring. Instead, I'm including some still photographs, but these might actually be a little bit more useful, as they show closer shots of what I've actually done, so the detail is a little more clear. Because of this, I'll use a mix of stills and videos throughout this project. Despite this being a very basic structure, it has the important role of connecting the station building to the platform section that I've already made. I wanted the two structures, platform and station, to adjoin each other as seamlessly as I could, carrying on the stylistic decoration I applied to the platform, like the stone texture and the edging, onto the station base itself. A tricky and kind of interesting little aspect of the foundation section was the addition of a stairway which would allow the passengers to climb to the entrance of the station's ticket hall. Now, I've never made a set of scale model steps before, so I was a little stumped as to how I would actually make them. So, I guessed, and I came up with a simple means of stacking a series of styrene rods, one on top of another, by cutting a couple of sawtooth supports and then gluing the rods in place. I later discovered that the simpler way to have done this would have simply been to stack a series of flat plastic slabs of diminishing length, one on top of another. There you go. But now the harder part of the model, the station building itself. Before jumping straight into knocking together the main office building by just feeling my way through the remainder of the project, I thought I'd do the wise thing and make a test mock-up of where I think this model is going. A quick card version of the outer shell of the station would allow me to visualise where things were going to go and how my 2D design would look in a very basic 3 dimensions. It also gave me some ideas about how I might fit things together. Mock-up complete, I was satisfied that I had a better understanding of how to progress with the real Plasticard version of this model. I started to cut out the basic shapes of the walls and decided I would use these shapes as the core supports onto which I would stick the texture of my building. The idea, based on my reference material, was to have a wooden slat facade through which I would cut the apertures of the windows and doors. But before that, I would add some other minor architectural details on the walls first. These tiny moulded kit window frames provided the exact dimensions that I actually needed, and I include these in the drawings that I'd done in my graphics software. This was drawn to scale, and so I was able to print out the design, which I could then paste onto the appropriate wall parts, providing me with a template with which I could accurately cut out the required holes in the walls. First, I used my mini rotary tool to drill pilot holes at the corners of the window and door outlines, and then I used the drill as a router to cut out the rest of the hole. Drill made it easy to get the majority of the aperture out, and then I had to tidy up the edges using a nice sharp chisel. It was a bit of a fudge, but it all kind of worked in the end. I dry fitted the frames, checking the accuracy of the holes for them, and cleaned up any inaccuracies with a file. Happy with the results, I glued the frames in place, and with that I started adding the actual walls on top of the foundation. With the walls up, I added any extra embellishments that I felt were needed, particularly if they covered up any of the shoddier parts of my modelling. Onto the roof. This is a pretty simple final edition, just 2 main parts, but there's still one problem, and that was I hadn't quite decided yet about what kind of textured roof I would have on top of the model. I have several choices based on the reference material I'd gathered. The first being a traditional Japanese ceramic tile texture, or I could have a corrugated metal roof, or a more modern galvanised or asphalt sheeting. I went for the asphalt sheeting texture as I thought it'd make a nice contrast to the timber texture I used on the walls. But before applying this texture to the building's roof, I built a simple shell out of styrene as a support which would allow me to more easily remove the roof in order to paint inside of the station. And then I stuck the pieces of asphalt texture to that and began adding the detail to finish off the roof, like the eaves and the guttering in the chimney. With that done, I was on the final stretch of the construction. Now I want to add some lean-to shelter roofing to the platform side of the station house to keep the rain off the passengers, and also a little triangular roof above the entrance. For this I chose a corrugated textured plastic sheet, again to contrast with the other textures and also to give it a look of a station that had been modified over the years. I made these sections so they were not permanently fixed in place, so that I could paint all the details that would otherwise be obscured were they attached to the station house. I would, however, add some sort of means to make them easily attachable. And with that, job done. Well, at least the construction of the models. I would of course have to permanently affix the station to the platform and then paint the model, but I will leave the painting process to a separate video altogether. So there's my first real N-gauge layout model. It's been an enjoyable build, but like so many projects you do for the first time, by the end I'd already realised there were better and easier ways to do certain things, and the model is definitely not without its flaws. Still, you live and learn. I'll take forward this experience to hopefully make an even better model the next time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build.